In the summer of 2021, Gabby Petito and her fiancé, Brian Laundrie, set out on a cross-country van trip, documenting their journey for thousands of followers online. But those smiling travel updates abruptly stopped in late August. On September 11th, after weeks without contact, Gabby's mother officially filed a missing person report with police in New York. Investigators discovered that on September 1st, Brian Laundrie had already driven Gabby's white Ford van back to his parents' home in Florida. He arrived completely alone, and he immediately retained a lawyer and refused to speak with authorities. This solitary return with the couple's vehicle shifted the focus of the investigation. While the search for Gabby began, Brian's silence made him the primary person of interest for local and federal agents. The Northport Police Department in Florida moved to monitor the Laundrie family home. On September 13th, detectives watched Brian leave the house and head toward the Carlton Reserve, a 25,000-acre nature park nearby. 2 days later, police observed someone wearing a baseball cap return to the house driving Brian's Mustang. Detectives assumed Brian had come home. In reality, they were watching his mother. Because of that single case of mistaken identity, police believed they had their primary suspect cornered inside his house. It wasn't until September 17th, when Brian's parents formally reported him missing, that authorities realized he had been gone for days, triggering a delayed, massive manhunt. As the chaotic search ramped up in Florida, the investigation out west reached a grim conclusion. On September 19th, searchers discovered Gabby's remains at a dispersed camping area in Wyoming's Bridger-Teton National Forest. The coroner's initial determination was homicide. The confirmation of her death, colliding with the surveillance error in Florida, meant investigators were actively hunting a suspect given almost a full week's head start. Tracking a fugitive through the Carlton Reserve meant fighting the environment itself. The nature preserve was largely submerged under deep floodwaters, forcing law enforcement to navigate dense, alligator-infested swamps using dive teams and specialized buggies. While the physical hunt stalled in the mud, the FBI executed search warrants on the Laundrie family home. Inside, they found a weapons cache that included live firearms, brass knuckles, and a crossbow. Investigators also recovered Brian's personal sketchbook. The pages were filled with violent imagery, including drawings of skulls, the word kill, and figures pierced through the torso with arrows. Among these possessions, they also found an undated letter written by Gabby to Brian. In it, she expressed deep frustration and emotional pain regarding their relationship. Nature temporarily blocked authorities from finding Brian's body. However, the evidence seized from his home provided investigators with a detailed view of an increasingly volatile state of mind leading up to the trip. The swamp search dragged on for over a month. Finally, by October 20th, the floodwaters receded enough for Brian's parents to lead investigators to a specific, previously submerged trail he was known to frequent. Searchers quickly located a dry bag and a backpack. Nearby, they found a .357 Magnum revolver and Brian's skeletal remains. A medical examiner later confirmed Brian Laundrie died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. Inside the dry bag was a waterlogged notebook containing Brian's final writings. In an 8-page entry, he confessed, "I ended her life." He claimed Gabby had injured herself in a fall into a Wyoming creek, framing the murder as a merciful act to end her pain. The notebook definitively answered who killed Gabby Petito, but Laundrie's attempt to frame the killing as an act of mercy directly contradicted the physical evidence uncovered by forensic experts. The Wyoming coroner's autopsy dismantled Brian's narrative. Gabby did not die from an accidental fall. She was killed by blunt force injuries to the head and neck, combined with manual strangulation. This violent end was the culmination of a documented pattern of abuse. Weeks earlier, on August 12th, a concerned citizen called 911 after witnessing Brian slapping Gabby in Moab, Utah. Moab police intercepted the couple's van. After interviewing both of them, officers used their own discretion to categorize the incident as a mental health crisis rather than domestic assault. They simply ordered the couple to separate for the night. The tragedy in Wyoming exposed two distinct points of failure: the logistics of the Florida search and the earlier law enforcement interaction in Utah, where police lacked the standardized tools to identify the lethal warning signs in the relationship. Gabby's parents channeled their grief into political advocacy, demanding that police response to domestic violence rely on data, not guesswork. This led directly to the passage of the Gabby Petito Act in Florida and SB 117 in Utah. This checklist outlines the lethality assessment program. It's a mandatory 12-question protocol isolating critical risk factors like prior strangulation or access to weapons. As the officer inputs answers, a risk score is generated. Crossing a specific threshold requires immediately connecting victims with crisis hotlines. The search for Brian Laundrie was marked by grueling delays and human error. But through the relentless work of her family, Gabby Petito's legacy is a permanent legal framework built to identify high-risk abuse and intervene before the final act of violence occurs.